Hey, how you doing?
Hey Dale, how are you?
Very well, man. I'm enjoying a glorious summer storm at the moment. There's lightning and thunder and all of that stuff, so it's a very nice evening.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's beauty in storms anyway.
There
So,
absolutely is. Yeah, I secretly love storms. They always bring me peace.
yeah. Well, that's nice. I don't mind if I'm at home looking outside, rain and thunder and lightning. It's nice. Not when you're outside, inside the house, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's exactly right.
And before we talk about Charcoal Grace, you guys played in the summer here in Portugal at the Comendatio Music Fest. I was, coming back to Portugal and to play in that festival.
It was hot. It was like 45 degrees, man. What are you guys doing up there? It's insane. No, honestly, it was actually it was really really cool, man. Portugal is a place that I can see myself retiring in my old age once Caligula's horse is done. Enjoy the wine up there
Yeah,
and go and retire somewhere in the countryside. So yeah, it was just incredible being back there. And we were in Tamar as well, as you likely know,
yeah.
and Tamar was just awesome to visit. The festival as well is just awesome. They've put on this great spread of cool acts over 2 nights, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a nice little festival for prog fans, generally, and it's a nice place. And my grandmother used to live close by, not a few kilometers away from that area, and I used to spend the summers there. And that's one of the things about the countryside. You do nothing. There's nothing to do there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we were there for I believe 3 days, and we didn't do much aside from go and have a look at all the awesome history around the castle.
Yeah.
And then aside from that, we were kind of just I went into the botanical gardens at one point. It was glorious, and yeah, just drinking beer and having fun.
Yeah, that's it. I don't mind, when you're on a break or something to do nothing.
Yeah,
As a day-to-day thing, it's more complicated because I was
totally. Yeah.
born, I was born in the city, and after a while, I don't mind hearing the cows and the birds and all that. It's nice to wake up to that sound, but
Yeah.
after a while, you miss, the craziness and the noise of the town, and at the same
Yeah.
time, you get tired of the noise and you want to go back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're always going between two
Yeah.
places. Yeah, you always want stuff to do, and yeah.
Anyway, and speaking about Charcoal's Grace, when did you guys start working on the music for the album?
Good question. It goes back reasonably far, actually, kind of in the shadow of finishing Rise Radiant. We had some of the formative ideas for like Gollum as just the opening riff for probably like 2 years. We just didn't know what to do with that particular. Actually, it might have been longer than that, but anyway, yeah, we just didn't know particularly know what to do with that piece of music. But I guess like intentional writing really started March or April of last year, I'm going to say. So yeah, that sounds about right. I think we did an Australian tour and then sort of started really intentionally writing after that. Yeah.
Hmm. Does it take long to finish a song with Caligula's horse?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Particularly these days, some of the longer pieces we're putting together this sort of maze and web of music becomes quite tricky. Yeah, there's different hurdles that you sort of face in some of these longer songs, but as I say that, tracks like tracks like the Storm Chaser came together reasonably quickly. Like Sam and I sort of worked on that over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days and got the vast majority out of it. Sort of completed around the first day. Even I think we sent off the initial demo to Jim and basically he was ready to go straight away. So the guts of the Storm Chaser basically got finished, in a couple of days. But something like Charcoal Grace, I remember just the months and months and months of agonizing over how to connect all of these different parts. The start of part 4, for example, was a very early idea as well that was totally separate. To before we'd started the writing process, earnestly the writing process, and I knew from the beginning of that idea that it was absolutely golden. It resonated with me so much, and so trying to tie that to an actual song took a long time.
Yeah. And, for me, it's always intriguing when a band writes like a 10 or a 12-minute piece. I wonder a lot of things normally. First of all, if it was intentional, if the plan was to make a longer song, or if it's just a natural development, or there's a third option. You normally don't know where to go, and you just keep writing and writing until you find a way out of the song.
Oh man, totally. Yeah. Are you a musician at all?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, okay. It's kind of a funny one trying to convince people that honestly you just go with the flow. Sometimes from the get-go of an idea that it has a specific purpose or a specific context, I should say, maybe. Something that is more readily listenable in a single environment, but I'm pretty sure I knew that the riff for Gollum, the first opening riff, belonged in a single. I think it just had a lot of immediacy to it. The Storm Chaser, that one was a little more ambiguous, but doing the verse chorus sort of thing, it started indicating something sort of shorter. But with these longer songs, there's a lot that you indicate by introducing melodic ideas or themes or motifs that sort of dictates more context. You need to reintroduce it later on. You need to give it a different context. You need to recapitulate it and provide some sort of different idea or feeling with it. You can sort of tell that it belongs in a longer song. Without rambling too much, the Charcoal Grace is a perfect example of a song that actually could have been longer than what we've written, which might surprise you, I don't know. But we had so much material to work with on that song that it kept inspiring us to just keep going. And at some point, we really did just have to say, no, we've got to cap it off here. It's got to come to a conclusion. It's already a big listen, so let's sort of draw it to a conclusion. Yeah.
Don't you feel tempted to, keep going when you feel the idea is good and the music there is good? Obviously you need to have an ending, but do you feel tempted to, maybe we could go a bit longer on this because there's something special in it, or you just have to do that, that thing that, no, we need to stop, otherwise it'll be like a 60-minute piece.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just to comment on that, part of what we relinquished with this album was the sort of immediacy that we've always strived towards in Caligula's Horse, especially with Rise Radiant. In fact, I think Rise Radiant and Charcoal Grace really exist in polar opposites with this, because we're taking our time on this album. We're trying to sit in these feelings and these sort of soundscapes a lot more and provide a bit of ambience and a bit of space for people, as well as just having longer songs. Yeah. So that was one of the battles that we had, where it's like, we kind of want to give more time for people to listen to it. We want to sit in this stuff a bit longer, but at the same time, eventually you do have to finish a song.
Yeah, it needs to be finished. And, as a bass player, and we'll go back to the album in a bit, but I'm always curious because, some bass players prefer finger picking, others prefer to use the plectrum. What are the advantages and disadvantages of both for you as a bass player? I know you use more of a plectrum when you're playing. What are the advantages? I'm always curious about music and, why. Let's say I'm a big fan of Billy Sheehan, and
Yeah,
you know, and he's just like he's so freaking fast with the fingers, and
yeah, he's insane. Yeah, look, for me, man, I practice fingerstyle at home and I play with a pick live. Yeah, I'll do a lot of rehearsal where I do actually play with a pick, but if I'm working on stuff, I'm working with my fingers. For me, it's a mixing thing, and I just love the sound of a pick on the strings. It just sounds aggressive. There are plenty of players who can draw on that with fingerstyle as well. I'm not saying you can do one thing or the other, but for me, I really like thrashing away on a string. I like being able to just go bam and hit it. And so it's as much for me about the attitude towards the playing as it is the actual sound as well. Yeah. And for what it's worth, I actually play with a really thin pick, so it sort of naturally compresses and gives when you hit the string. So that's sort of another aspect towards my tone, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of bass players. Normally, the way they differently approach, their music style, whatever. Because, I never understood exactly what a bass player has to do, because sometimes they seem to be stuck, have to play to the drums, or sometimes they play more according to the guitar thing. And when I heard a guy like Billy Sheehan or Lemmy, for instance, or Joey DeMaio of Manowar, they approached the bass more as a guitar than anything else.
That's an awesome take. Yeah, I definitely agree, man. Yeah.
But how do you, when you play, you have to follow what?
Yeah. I guess based in the context of Caligula's horse, this is an awesome question, by the way. Based in the context of Caligula's horse, it's all about sort of rooting down what the chords are. It's being able to give a strong identifier for what Sam's playing, I guess. And that's a really strong one. In some music, that's not as important, like in Tool, for example, there's so much room for the space there in the bass parts, and there's a lot of ambience, and the chords are very sort of like ambiguous at points. Whereas for me, we play with a lot of chords, and a lot of those chords are harmonically quite what's a good word, dank, or like quite quite dense sometimes. So it's sort of important in my role to be able to really tell a listener what's happening, how the melody is moving as well, and also to play melodically where it's needed as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Tool, I just love the way the bass sounds, with them. It's just like very, almost like free flowing in a way. He does his own thing, but it's very nice. And again, like, I'm a big fan of Billy Sheehan. I keep, I remember listening to his solo record, and I was, because he was playing like a guitar on one of the songs, and I was like, what the fuck is happening here? It's just,
hey, man.
It's absolutely brutal. And with the album coming out soon, touring plans obviously must be in place. Before we go to those touring plans, people complain about how expensive it is to tour these days. I cannot imagine a band from Australia to fly to Europe for a tour. You must think, okay, I have to probably put an extra mortgage on a house or something like that to be able to tour. How complicated it is for, an Australian band to tour these days?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and the unfortunate answer is that it is just exactly what you expect. It's very expensive. I think it took getting through COVID for me to realize just how, not to play the pity party, but how disadvantaged we are in Australia trying to get across overseas. Somewhere like Europe, it's relatively easy. Yeah, it's still expensive, but it's it's easy enough to get a visa there. And in America, it's trickier. It takes a bit longer. It's also incredibly expensive for America to tour. But yeah, there is a definite disadvantage, I think, by being essentially a 15 to 18 hour flight away from Europe. That last tour, that we did was it took a reasonable toll on us. We're all sort of funding these tours out of our pockets at the moment, in the wake of sort of where COVID left us as a band, and so fronting money for that at the moment is tough, honestly, as a band. We're doing the best that we can, and it's looking like it's going to take a good turn in 2024.
Yeah. So what are the plans? What can you say so far that you're allowed to say that's going to happen in 2024?
Oh, look, it's always the battle trying to figure out what to say and what not to say. No. We have obviously the North American tour that we announced. We're heading to North America for the first time as a headline run in January and February. Get your tickets now. And we've just announced Australia in April. Obviously, we're on the back of an album launch, so we want to be able to get to Europe next year. And I would say likely we are going to do that in 2024. Definitely watch this space, because that's... I guess we'll be announcing more news for that soon.
And it's more feasible to do like a longer tour or a shorter tour?
Yeah, for us, we're sort of in a unique position, I guess, because we're not as youthful and vibrant as we used to be. We've all got families, we've all got careers now as well, so we have to sort of navigate what we can manage personally versus what the band also requires. And the band does require a certain level of commitment, obviously. But for us, we tend to do shorter tours just so we can fit it in around our work leave entitlements and our sort of family situations as well. When we go on tour, having kids at home, it's a tough sell. It's, partners staying at home taking care of kids and, relinquishing themselves of time that they would normally get for leave outside of that, So it's for us, it has to be shorter tours just across the board. Yeah.
Do the kids understand what you do for a living?
I think some of them do. Yeah, some of them are older and they sort of get it. For what it's worth, I don't actually have any kids, but yeah, there's some of the older kids on Josh's side, I think, definitely do, and yeah.
When they go to school or something, my dad is a rock star.
Yeah, he's a rock star in what band? How do you pronounce that? What?
It's the thing about, being in a band, we all think it's all, roses and, it's a glamorous life, but it's really complicated, to give up a job or, to ask for leave to go on tour and probably not come back home with a profit or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll work on that for this year.
That's good. Anyway, and, with you guys putting the albums out, are you guys planning, because a lot of bands play, anniversary shows for certain albums that they decide to play the albums from start to finish. Are you guys planning any of that? Is something that, interests you guys in, or it's just, you prefer to keep making music and just play the newer songs and stuff like that?
Yeah, good question. We've done, like, we did In Contact. It was before I was in the band, but I toured in the support band for when Caligula's Horse did In Contact in full, which was nice. And we had plans for that with Rise Radiant, and then the sort of cycle of Charcoal Grace started taking off, and we sort of lost time for that. But I guess we'll revisit Rise Radiant, I guess, in the future when we get some time. But for the moment, we're just focused on Charcoal Grace. And being a 63-minute album. It's quite long. 63, 62, something like that.
It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, that's what I get a lot of feedback from, and that's sort of how I feel as well. It's surprisingly short. Yeah.
It's, you know.
But yeah. Hopefully we'll get around to doing a full Charcoal Grace playthrough, because I think that would be incredible. And I honestly can't wait to play the suite of Charcoal Grace as well, just the 4 songs back to back.
Yeah. So that's the idea for the tour, is to play, you know, those 4 songs, or, you know, you might put, because the first and the last, they are the long ones. So 10 and 12. But the plan is just to focus on those 4 songs, or...
We will likely be playing whatever the singles are, you know, for Gollum and The World Breathes With Me. And I think we'll probably delay Charcoal Grace until later, but we don't know yet. It's a hard one. It's a hard, long song, so we've got to figure out how we're going to do that live as well, because it's all got to be translated as well. You got to make sure that it's all the arrangements work in our context. And we haven't played any of these songs together. Oh, aside from Gollum, we haven't played the rest of these songs together yet. So we've still got to see how that sounds.
Yeah. And then normally, do you ever get disappointed when you have to play, you know, those long pieces, and for some reason you're not connecting with it? That ever happened?
Oh, it's actually never happened. Yeah, I must admit. The everything for me has always hit just as hard. I don't think anything has ever sort of changed in that respect, actually. It will be very interesting to see how the space on the new album translates live, because, you know, like I mentioned before, that immediacy that we're sort of known for in Caligula's Horse, that's not always there on the new album. We have time to sort of just enjoy the sounds, and I actually think that's going to be a really welcome relief in a set, you know, listening to these long, dense songs, but also having these moments to just sit back and sort of soak it in.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And, you know, so you cannot tell much about the plans for 2024. When you mentioned earlier that, you know, you started working on the new songs as soon as Rise Radiant was done. Does that normally happen when you guys finish a record? You guys start working on new ideas, or this time around you're going to take your time to, you know, work on newer songs and new ideas?
Yeah, so just to clarify that, so after Rise Radiant, we there was a brief period there where we weren't really writing at all, and then we had like a couple of ideas in the middle of COVID, like maybe 1 or 2, but yeah, just to clarify there, actually, like, COVID really did a number on us. Like, we didn't do any writing. We basically, not intentionally, but we just avoided writing. We kind of hated, I guess, the process of being in a band for a couple of years there. So for us, it honestly felt like 3 years of inaction with us, and we had to find ourselves again with the new album. Really, like, I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, find ourselves again as writers and creatives. We were really drawn back to it at a certain point, and I think that's when we started touring again last year, and we're like, okay, cool, it's time to get back on the, you know, literal and proverbial horse. Yeah, so hopefully we've sort of shed that darkness in our career, and we can actually like move on to more efficient writing. I think everyone in the band would honestly agree that writing an album every 2 years would be a goal of ours, but, you know, we'll see how that pans out as well.
In the prog world, is a bit more complicated to do such a thing.
That's it. Yeah, exactly right.
So during the COVID period, did you guys question the band's existence and continuity, so to say?
Yeah, I think each of us in our own very specific and isolated and dark ways, yes, we definitely did. It was a tough one, man. Like, Sam, Jim, Josh and I, we all had our moments where we're just like, don't know if this is what we want to do right now. You know, seeing constantly people being motivated and doing work as musicians, and we were just over here in little old Australia just being like, oh man, we can't tour, we can't do anything. We've got these brutal lockdowns that are happening, and meanwhile the regular administration stuff in the band keeps going on. Like, that doesn't ever stop, unless you call it quits in a band, which we weren't ready to do. So yeah, it definitely affected us. I know for a fact that there were times there where I was just like, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I've done everything that I need to, yeah, I'll see what happens on the other side.
Yeah, it was very, there was a period was very desperate because, we couldn't see a way out of it. It was like, is this what's going to be, from now on, being stuck at home, not being able to see people and not having shows and nothing. It was really grim at a time because, it was also sudden and quick. And I remember you guys had the fires there just prior to COVID, one after the other. And I was like, poor kangaroos, they cannot get a break.
Yeah, how are we going to get around without our kangaroos now? We're going to have to start using cars.
Yes. But it was very difficult for you guys. Those fires, by the way, well, that's obviously, it's not spoken anymore. Everything's, under control. But was there anything done to prevent that from happening again? Was, any consequences, so to say, from what happened with those fires?
I think there was a huge review into how our states deal with emergency services, but at the time we were under a pretty awful Liberal government in Australia, Conservative government, and there was reviews into how they conducted it, and there was just blatant ignorance to a whole bunch of different emergency alerts that were raised very early on in the process, and because of that inaction, it all escalated. So that's what we've been dealing with for the last 10 years in Australia as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully it gets better. We also had catastrophic floods.
Yeah.
Not last year, the year before as well. Australia's just a hotbed for environmental disasters at the moment, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better.
No, I think the more that happens to the environment, the worse things get. Here in Portugal, you were here in the summer, it was freaking hot. And
it was insane.
Normally it's hot, but that was really, really warm weather. It was like, I remember summers being warm, but I would tolerate it, but now I don't. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know.
Man, I've always been a summer person, and now all of a sudden it's like 36 degrees today, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready for spring again, for autumn again.
Anyway, and apart from Caligula's horse, would you like to work on side projects, or do you work on side projects, or you just you're good with Caligula's horse?
Man, honestly, I am good with Caligula's horse. Like, they give me everything that I need to as a musician, but I have been working on some stuff this year. Just writing on my own for just the sake of being creative with no actual purpose. Working on another band that I used to play in. I left them to join Caligula's horse. We've just started sort of getting towards the end of the writing process and recording parts now. So working on that with Opus of a Machine. I've done a couple of guest spots this year. Cool little track called Skin and Bones from a mate of mine, Tom. That was pretty cool. That's sort of where I'm at the moment. I'm basically ready to do anything. I'm trying to shed that sort of closeted thing I've always had as a musician and just try and enjoy myself again, really.
Do you feel with age you open up more to, different styles of music?
Yeah, definitely. When I was younger, I was very pigeonholed with what I liked. I liked Metallica and I liked Megadeth, and that was it. I liked, a whole bunch of grunge and stuff as well, like Foo Fighters and Nirvana, but, you get the point. But yeah, like the minute that I went to university and I was exposed to all of these other sick musicians, and when I met Sam for the first time as well, about 10 or 11, 12 years ago, he also opened me up to a whole bunch of new stuff too. But yeah, I've got a lot of alternative sort of music tastes nowadays, and I think we all do in the band as well. We sort of just like good music. There's not really a label for what we like. We like heavy music, obviously, because we write it, but there's so much other stuff out there. I'm absolutely obsessed with soundtracks at the moment. Video game soundtracks, film soundtracks, just anything that I can get my hands on that is ambient and, you know, sort of paints a really long picture of something. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when that's about games soundtracks, you know, sometimes we don't realize how much work is put into those soundtracks, and it's really a work of art. You know, most of them, you know, it's to create like a soundscape for a game. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Absolutely.
I would say it's easier to write a prog song than to write the soundtrack for a video game.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Anyway, Dale, thank you very much for your time. All the best for Caligula's horse. Hopefully, you guys will come back to Portugal, not in the peak of summer. You know, that won't be, if it has to be, it has to be. But, you know, not as warm as, you know, this year when you guys played anyway. So.
Yeah, we might try winter next time. We'll see how that goes. Thanks so much for chatting, George. Really appreciate
thank you very much, Dale. And, you know, hope to see you guys soon, all right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Or great evening in your case.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good night. Sleep well, you know.
I will.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.